In the realm of human psychology, what is readily available is often overlooked, while what is scarce becomes infinitely more desirable. This principle governs not only material possessions, but also human relationships, where the dynamics of presence and absence shape the way people perceive one another. When you withdraw your attention, your value in the mind of another begins to rise, not because you have changed, but because scarcity breeds attraction. People rarely appreciate what they assume will always be there. The predictable, the ever-present, and the easily accessible are often taken for granted. This is why familiarity can sometimes lead to indifference. When someone knows they have your attention, they feel no urgency to earn it. There is no challenge, no fear of loss, and no reason to fight for what is already secured. However, when that certainty is removed, a shift occurs. Doubt seeps in, the absence creates a contrast, and that contrast ignites curiosity, longing, and even regret. This principle is seen in all aspects of life. Why do people cherish diamonds? Not simply because they are beautiful, but because they are rare. Why do individuals chase after exclusive experiences? Because they are not accessible to everyone. The human mind is wired to place a higher value on what is difficult to attain. The moment you make yourself scarce, you are no longer just another presence in his life. You become something to be sought after, something he must now work to regain. By stepping back, you are not diminishing your worth, you are elevating it. Your absence forces the other person to reassess your importance. If he had taken you for granted before, he will now begin to see what life feels like without your energy, your attention, and your presence. This creates a psychological trigger, one that makes him start to wonder, question, and ultimately desire what he once thought was secure. The key is to do this with precision. Disappearing completely may push him to move on, but strategic withdrawal keeps him in a state of pursuit. He must feel the loss, but not to the point of hopelessness. It is a delicate balance of being just out of reach, maintaining an air of mystery, and allowing the void you leave behind to work in your favor. In this way, your absence becomes a tool of influence, making you more valuable in his eyes than any direct effort ever could. The human mind despises uncertainty. It craves resolution, clarity, and understanding. When someone suddenly withdraws their attention, they create a void, a space where certainty once existed. This void is not empty. It is filled with unanswered questions, self-doubt, and a growing curiosity that becomes impossible to ignore. The person on the receiving end is left wondering what has changed, why the shift has occurred, and most importantly, whether they have lost something valuable. This psychological tension is powerful. The moment you remove your presence, you disrupt the other person's sense of control. When things are predictable, people feel secure, but when that predictability vanishes, the mind races to make sense of it. Was it something they did? Have you lost interest? Have you found someone else? These questions become intrusive, forcing them to think about you more than they ever did before. What was once a passive interaction now transforms into an obsession as they seek to understand what went wrong and how to regain your attention. The reason this works so effectively is that people are naturally egocentric. When someone withdraws, the first instinct is not to consider the other person's perspective, but to reflect on what it means for them. They feel the discomfort of your absence and try to resolve it in their favor. They begin to romanticize the past, focusing on what they miss rather than what might have frustrated them before. The mind, in an effort to fill in the blanks, often enhances the positive aspects and minimizes the negative, making your absence feel even more significant. This is how influence is gained, not through direct confrontation or pleading for attention, but through strategic detachment. By refusing to offer explanations, you allow the other person's imagination to take control. And imagination is far more powerful than reality. The mind will always construct a narrative that is more compelling than the truth. In this way, you become larger in their thoughts, more significant than you were before, simply by stepping back and letting their own curiosity consume them. However, this void must be maintained carefully. If you return too soon, the illusion collapses and you risk becoming predictable once again. The discomfort of uncertainty is what keeps you in their thoughts. The longer they sit with the unknown, the more deeply they feel your absence. And in that absence, they begin to crave your presence in ways they never did before. Mystery holds an undeniable power over the human mind. When something or someone cannot be fully understood, the imagination takes over, filling in the gaps with possibilities that are often more compelling than reality. This is why mystery breeds obsession. The moment you become unpredictable, you shift from being just another presence in his life to an enigma, something that must be figured out, something that cannot be easily explained or dismissed. Predictability is comforting, but it is also uninspiring. When someone knows exactly what to expect from you, there is no excitement, no challenge, and no reason for deep contemplation. But when you introduce uncertainty, by withdrawing, by becoming less available, by no longer revealing your every thought and feeling, you force the other person to pay closer attention. Suddenly, they are no longer sure where they stand with you. They begin analyzing your words, your actions, and even your silences, searching for clues to make sense of the change. In this state, the mind magnifies your importance. When someone cannot fully understand you, they tend to assume there is more depth, more significance, more value to uncover. This is why people are drawn to those who are slightly elusive, those who do not reveal everything at once, those who leave something to be desired. The unknown is far more attractive than the fully explained. By embracing mystery, you allow yourself to be perceived as someone beyond the ordinary. He begins to wonder about your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions. He starts to question what you are doing when you are not with him. He wonders if you are thinking about him as much as he is thinking about you. In this way, you take up more space in his mind than you ever did when you were openly available. This effect is strongest when you maintain a balance. If you become completely unreadable, you risk pushing him away entirely. But if you reveal just enough to keep him engaged while withholding enough to keep him guessing, you create an irresistible pull. His curiosity will drive him to seek answers, to engage with you more intensely, to invest more effort into understanding and winning you over. In the end, the power does not come from being distant for the sake of it. It comes from becoming a puzzle that he cannot easily solve. And as long as he is trying to figure you out, he will never stop thinking about you. People crave what they cannot fully have. This is an undeniable truth in human nature. The more elusive something is, the more desirable it becomes. When something is easily accessible, there is no challenge, no conquest, and no sense of achievement. However, when something feels just out of reach, close enough to grasp but never fully secure, the mind fixates on obtaining it. This is the essence of attraction, the tension between want and uncertainty. When you step back and become less available, you trigger this dynamic. He begins to feel your absence, but more importantly, he starts to recognize that he does not fully possess you. This is what keeps him engaged. If he always knows where you stand, if he always feels certain of your affection, he has no reason to chase, no reason to prove himself, and no reason to fight for your attention. But when you introduce a level of unpredictability, he is forced to take action. This is not about manipulation, it is about understanding the natural flow of desire. When something is guaranteed, it loses its sense of urgency. People only act when they fear loss, when they believe they must earn something, when they recognize that what they want is not entirely in their control. By positioning yourself as someone who is not easily won over, you shift the power dynamic. Instead of you trying to keep his interest, he begins to feel the need to keep yours. Men by nature enjoy the thrill of pursuit. They are wired to chase, to prove their worth, to feel a sense of accomplishment when they attain something valuable. When you remove yourself from the role of the pursuer and instead allow him to wonder, to question, to feel the possibility of losing you, you become the prize. This subtle shift makes all the difference. However, this must be done with care. If you become too distant, he may assume you are uninterested and move on. The key is to remain present enough to keep him engaged while maintaining enough distance to keep him striving for more. The ideal balance is one where he is never fully certain of where he stands with you. That uncertainty is what keeps him intrigued, invested, and drawn toward you. In the end, those who are too easily won are too easily forgotten, but those who remain just beyond full reach become unforgettable. Silence is one of the most powerful tools in human interaction. While most people feel the urge to explain themselves, seek reassurance, or demand attention, true influence often comes from restraint. When you stop talking, stop reacting, and stop giving away your thoughts so freely, you create a space that forces the other person to fill in the blanks. And in that space, their mind does all the work for you. When you withdraw your attention, the other person is left with an unsettling feeling. They begin to wonder why the dynamic has shifted. Why are you no longer reaching out as you once did? Why have you stopped responding with the same enthusiasm? Have they done something wrong? Have they lost their hold over you? These questions become intrusive, cycling through their mind until they are forced to seek answers. Unlike words, which can be ignored or argued against, silence is impossible to fight. It lingers. It forces reflection. It makes the other person confront their own emotions without your interference. Instead of explaining yourself or justifying your distance, you let the absence speak for itself. The more they wonder, the more they think about you, and the more they feel the need to re-establish the connection. The key to using silence effectively is knowing when to break it. If you hold it for too long, the other person may assume you are no longer interested and move on. But if you maintain it just long enough to make them feel your absence, they will begin to crave your presence again. They will reach out, ask questions, and make more effort, all because you allowed them to feel the weight of your silence. In a world where people are constantly seeking validation through words and attention, the one who masters silence holds the true power. It creates mystery, it breeds intrigue, and most importantly, it makes the other person realize your value. Not because you told them, but because they had to discover it for themselves. Patience is the difference between fleeting attention and lasting influence. In a world where people expect immediate gratification, those who can resist the urge to react too quickly hold the greatest power. When you step back and allow time to work in your favor, you shift the balance of control. Instead of rushing to restore connection, you let the other person sit with their emotions, their questions, and their growing sense of unease. When you create distance, the initial reaction might be silence or even resistance. The other person may not immediately chase after you. This is where most people make mistakes. They panic, break their silence too soon, and undo the tension they had carefully built. They give in to their own impatience, and in doing so, relieve the other person of the discomfort they were just starting to feel. But true influence comes from allowing that discomfort to linger. During this time, the absence starts to take effect. The longer someone goes without hearing from you, the more their mind begins to romanticize your presence. They start remembering the best moments, overlooking the flaws, and creating an idealized version of you. The more time they spend thinking about you, the stronger their desire grows. But this transformation cannot happen if you interrupt the process by reaching out too soon. The key is to remain calm and trust the space you've created. People value what they have to work for. If they feel your absence but also sense that you are not entirely lost, they will be drawn back in, not out of obligation, but out of genuine curiosity and longing. The moment they start to question whether they've lost you is the moment they become willing to take action to bring you back. Patience is not passivity, it is a strategic form of control. By holding back, you allow the other person to come to their own realization about your worth. And when they do, their efforts to regain your attention will be far more meaningful than anything you could have forced through impatience.